All right, welcome back to our video series on creating a coronavirus data analyzer. So in this video, we're going to pick up where we left off last time. I made this kind of list of kind of to-do things. So I think we'll just start with this first one, the actual data versus predicted data, so we can kind of get an idea of how, I guess, how good our model appears to be on a day-by-day basis. So to do that, we're going to go ahead and make a new method just to kind of keep things separate here. And so I'm really bad at naming things. I'm just going to call this compare model. Right? And so the first thing we're going to do is go ahead and do this actual y. Right? So I'm going to do actual y. I'm also going to go ahead and do actual x. I'll explain in a bit. Of course, end at doesn't really make any sense just yet, but we're going to go ahead and I'm going to make end at equal the length of self.dates. Because remember, self.dates is actually a list that has all of the dates in it. Okay. This should make a list actual y. Actually, you know what? Let's print actual y to see what it does really quick. Make sure I'm not making stuff up. I believe this is going to print out a list of data by dates here. So let's go ahead and get rid of c.plot. I'm going to do c.compare model for right now. Go ahead and get rid of c.print as well. All right. And so there we go. So we have numbers. We're going to go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and get the predictions for that, the number of days between start at and end at. Right, between start at and end at. I want that many predictions. So I'm going to go ahead and do predict list equals self.predict. And the number of days that we want is end at minus start at. So let's hear. So if we end at day 10, okay, let's use the examples. If we end at day 40 and we started at day 30, right? That's going to give us 10. But the reality is, if we're starting at 30 and we're stopping before end at, yeah, so this should work. This should be what I want. End at minus start at. So that difference, again, if end at is 40, start at is 30, then that would give us 10 things. So we're going to predict 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay. And so I'm going to go ahead and print actual y, and I'm going to print the prediction list. Start at's not defined. Of course it's not, because it has to be caps. Okay, so now we see these numbers and those numbers. Okay. Now our predict isn't really giving us the right data type, right? It's giving us these decimal numbers. So I think what we actually want to do is let's go ahead and in our exponential function right here inside of our predict, let's go ahead and make sure that we only get integer values. And what we'll do is we'll always round down, because we'll just kind of say, you know what, you can't have 0.8 of a person, so that person didn't have it or whatever. So we'll just go ahead and say int on this. All right, so remember this exponential function, it's plugging in these values, it's giving us one of these decimals. We're going to convert that to an int. And so now if we run this, we see two sets of integers. Okay. Now these two sets of integers should be the same size. So let's find out. I'm going to do len of actual y, and we'll do len of predict list, just to confirm. Cool, they're both 30. Okay, so now what we want to do is we want to take these two lists, the actual y is a bad variable name. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and change, because we're not plotting anymore, right? This is the actual cases. I'll call this predicted cases. Okay. I don't need this actual x after all, so I'm going to get rid of it. Okay. So, but what we do want is we want to put these together along with the actual, like the dates that they correspond with. I'm going to go ahead and do something kind of like what I did right here. I'm going to say dates equals, what is it, self dot dates, and we're going to start at here and go up to end at. Okay. So now if I print dates, make sure that did what I wanted. No, actual, yeah. You gotta go and update all your variables. Anytime you change one variable, you gotta go change it everywhere. You'll probably see me make that mistake a whole bunch. Okay, so now we have these dates there. Cool. Notice it's starting on February 21st, which was 30 days after the actual, very first case back on January 22nd, but our model doesn't work back then, so we're using this to look forward. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and use an for loop. So for I in range, len of actual cases. Right, so this is going to start at 0 and go up to however long it is. And what I want to do is say something like the date followed by like predicted actual difference. So I'm going to use an f string for this. I'm going to say printf. And I'm just going to say dates I. Right, so on that date, predicted, and that'll be pred cases at index I. Right, we'll do actual, and that'll be actual cases at index I. And then we'll say difference. Right. So I'm going to make some temporary variables here. I'm going to say p equals, right, pred cases I. A equals actual cases I. Right. So I can just put p and a here, and the difference would be what, predicted minus actual. Now, if we have, let's say, predicted minus actual, that means positive is a good thing. So the predicted was too high. And if it's a minus, that means the predicted was too low. Right? So yeah. Let's go ahead and run this and see what happens. Cool. And so we can see at a pretty quick glance how good our model is for different days, where we can see that on some days it's too low, on some days it's too high. Okay. Now the other thing I noticed is this is a little hard to read because spacing, right? So we can use, in f-strings, we can actually tell it to align a certain number of spaces and things like that. So let's start with the date here. Notice how with the date we have, counting the characters, we have a 3 / 1 0 / 2 0. That's a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So what we're going to do is we're going to tell this, we're going to put a colon right here, and we're going to tell it to right justify 7 spaces. So no matter what, it should take up 7 spaces. So now if we run this, we'll see that all of our dates are now aligned. Okay. So now notice the word predicted is aligned everywhere. So now we're going to do the same thing with these numbers. And I'm thinking the same way, except we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We probably want it like, I don't know, that's 25,000. So that's 5. 6 would be hundreds of thousands. 7 would be millions. So we can probably do the same thing. So for predicted, let's go ahead and just say, let's go right justified 7. For the actual, let's go ahead and say right justify 7. And then for the difference, that difference shouldn't usually be more than 5. So let's go ahead and right justify 5. Save this and let's run it and see what it looks like. Cool. So we can see now that we're getting everything's a little bit easier to read. Okay. You know what? Let's look at that. What that looks like left justified. So I'm going to change this to a less than. Notice that it's not really a greater than or less than. It's an arrow. It's pointing which direction. So if I do it, I'm going to change that to left justified just to see what that one looks like. So see, now we can see. All right. So I kind of like the left justified better because it leaves the space over here between the words for now. Although I may want to increase this to 8 to leave a little more space. So I'm going to go ahead and left justify to 8, and then we'll left justify this one to 5 still. So now if we run this, there we go. Cool. So now we can kind of see how the model actually compares with real. That might be good to know. Especially as we're kind of looking ahead, we can almost like look back and see, okay, so this particular model, when it's predicting, 700,000, then how close was it before? Okay, so that's going to do it for this video. In the next video, we're going to extend this, and after it prints out this comparison, so we can see how good our model is, then we'll have it print out some predictions. And give us some dates to kind of go along with those. So in other words, what does this predict for March 22nd, 23rd, 24th, and so on. So that'll be our next video. Again, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.